Hi guys. I wanted to make this video as I just woke up, and I apologize for my room. I guess that's what Will Smith said when that's what Will Smith meant when he said if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So I wanted to talk about the difference between fault and responsibility. I had this really wacky dream about Austin yesterday. We were at a school, there was a witch, and I kept getting the impression that I should talk about this. So I'm going to do that with the hopes that maybe this might free somebody. So when you are at fault um, of something, that means that had it not been for your action or inaction, the thing would not have happened. uh, Inaction could be maybe you see somebody dying, overdosing, and you don't call 911. Or action could be maybe you put something in their weed or whatever they were doing. Um, when something is your responsibility, it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. If someone uh, beats you, it's not your fault that you got beaten, but it's now your responsibility to go to the hospital, make sure that you have no infections, maybe put cocoa butter on your face and um, see what type of treatment you can get to make the scars go away, right? Um, if someone steals from you, it's not your fault that they stole from you, but it's now your responsibility to um, recover your assets if you need them, whether it's going to the insurance people or just going to the store or trying to get the money up to get some new stuff or maybe even to move, or get better security. So these are the differences between fault and responsibility. I think that people who are very responsible, that means people who, like you and I, who have the ability to respond, not to panic, not to talk about something, not to call people, but to take action. People who are very responsible, like us, we tend to take responsibility for things that um, that are not our fault, or rather even though things are our responsibility, we tend to take fault with it. It's a very hard thing for us to separate that. So when Austin died, that night I went out. I went out with a guy and I had a rotten time. And I should have stayed home. And when I got home and I found out what happened, I, of course, said it was my fault because I should have stayed home. It was my fault. I'm always, out there doing, ridiculous stuff. I should have stayed home. I didn't even like the guy that much. If I was home, clearly this wouldn't have happened, right? Um, so I'm sitting there, drinking, smoking myself into a stupor, begging God to take me, ignoring all the signs that Austin was showing me that he was around, right? Um, a blue jay came right to my, but that's another story. So a friend named Mike, he said, who I hadn't talked to in a very long time. I say that he was like probably like an angel in a human body. Because he just always seemed to come when I really needed him. And he didn't really seem to want much. He was just like, hey, let me take you out. Hey, let me do this for you. Hey, let me do that for you. Um, and it was never like, So anyway, so he's like, hey, I want to take you out for lunch. So I'm like, okay, cool. And he hadn't heard about Austin because he was, from a whole different city. Um, I don't think anyway. So he's like, hey, let me take you out to lunch. And I'm like, okay, cool. So we go out to lunch and we're talking. And then, I tell him what happened. And he's like, oh my gosh, how are you feeling about that? And I said, I just feel like it was my fault. If I had stayed home, if I, let me see. yeah, he's like, if I had stayed home, I mean, I said, if I had stayed home, um, this wouldn't have happened. And he freed me when he said, well, it's not like you left him in a crack house, or it's not like you even left him by yourself. You left him with people that you thought he could trust, that you could trust. Who else could you trust, but the people that you left him with? And when he told me that, oh my God, it was like chains broke off of me, right? So, it seems like once he said that, it's like that gave the spirits like free reign to talk to me and give me scenarios on what could have happened. And I think that I left to go to Alabama. It wasn't a week after that, because now he had taken some of the fault from me, right? So, and now it, but then of course, as later on, when I still think about him and I get upset and all that kind of stuff like that, now I take, even like grandmom to some extent, I take fault for other things now. Oh well, maybe if I didn't, leave and go to Newark, then he wouldn't have been traumatized and he wouldn't have been having to smoke weed. Or maybe if when grandmom died and the whole world was against me, but if I just stood stronger, even though I'm having like a nervous breakdown, right? I used to wake up and stare at the wall for hours, right? But so what? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I have to do everything. I'm the hero. So if maybe I should have been stronger during that time. You know what I mean? Like, I just was thinking of all these things that made him so miserable, right? That he felt like he had to smoke weed, right? And so it was, so now, even though it wasn't my fault that I left him to go out, because I did leave him with people that I should have been able to trust, especially in that circumstance. They should have been well versed. But um now it was my fault because of all the mistakes that I made growing up. Him growing up, to make him, not be this perfect person, even though he was like 80% perfect, right? Um, and so as I thought about this, I recognized that, like, well, I'm not Superwoman, right? Grandma did die. Like, you have to give yourself credit that you've really been under siege your whole life, right? So you have to give yourself credit for the battles that you fought. You know what I mean? You have to give yourself credit, because what was your example to be a parent, and if you really look at the way that he turned out, you did a good job, right? Because I didn't know how to be a parent. I didn't, but all I wanted Austin to know was that he was a genius and that I loved him. And there were plenty, like, listen, there were times me and Austin would be in situations, or maybe like two or three situations, where we just had to grab hands and run. You know what I'm saying? It was no fighting back or nothing like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's all I wanted him to know, right? And I felt like, because I had the genius part down when I was growing up, but if I had known somebody like really like was down with me the way I was down with him, I think things would have been different, right? Um, so as I'm thinking about all the things that are my fault, that he didn't have like this perfect childhood, um, I had the thought that, like, none of these things are your fault. You were battling, you were fighting, like, it's a war. It's not like if somebody declares war on you and there's a casualty, they can't like now try you for murder. You know what I'm saying? You were at war. So none of this is your fault. Your responsibility is to figure out what happens when you die, to figure out how you can um legally, I mean, change our scenery. Your responsibility is how can you your responsibility is how can you um feel better about it? How can you think about him without getting upset? How can you um have his pictures up, have grandmom's pictures up without getting upset? That's your responsibility. Your responsibility is to make peace with um who he is now and what is he now to you, you know? Um I heard KRS One say that when somebody dies in the spirit, it's because you're about to start your spiritual um like purpose, and you need help in the spirit. And to me, he ain't never lied, right? Because man, everywhere I go is either people that's for me or very much against me. And listen, I had no idea till I got to Louisiana. Uh, like the measures people. I mean, it's listen, it's I need spirits, right? So anyway, um, even though I got God and the Holy Spirit, but see, this is the thing, right? Like, how do we relate to people who have passed on? And then it's like I was gonna be like, well, I can't relate to them that way because everybody says it's a sin. The Bible says don't talk to the dead, all this kind of stuff, right? Um, but then all these pastors are getting like arrested for like indecency, or they're getting arrested for um all types of stuff, right? And so it's like well, I don't know, y'all can see I don't care. The people that you see, some people that you see on there, you guys know who you are. The only reason I have you up there is because when I accomplish a goal, I think that you guys will be proud of me. And so I look at you guys to like kind of motivate me in a positive way, because I already have enough haters as my motivators. So it's not like, oh, I'm doing, but no, like it's just that I think that you guys, this is my thing to let me look at when I know when I feel bad or whatever. Like remember all the things that God is like put you like taking you through. This is Mardi Gras and Mobile, in this green truck. Uh, me and Jermaine, and that's my nigga. I love him. I'm not saying this in a negative way, but we had an argument one time, and then I didn't get like to the corner before this green truck pulled up. And so sometimes when I go through something, it's like God's gonna send a green truck. But yeah. So when I first got to Alabama, uh, no, because I didn't go to Alabama first. Did I? Where did I go? No, I went to Alabama first. Right. Yeah. No, when I went to Alabama first, when I first got to Alabama, I didn't hear them too much. I would just hear like my grandpa be like, "Oh, you can trust this person," But when I left Alabama and went to Louisiana, like Baton Rouge first, oh, they was on me. They was on me like, go this way, like you know what I'm saying? Like I like they was on me. Like it literally I heard their voices. Um, I don't hear them as much now. It just seems like they come around, or I hear them a lot when I am in trouble or I need guidance. I remember when me and Jermaine like had this like huge fight, and I had my things at Naaman's because I was planning on like escaping, right? And so I had this bag, and I would just put stuff in it, and they saw it, but they just put it back, right? Um, but anyway, the night I left there, I heard my grandpa say, well, I heard like all these voices say, like, leave your bag, leave your wallet, leave your wallet, leave your wallet. And I'm like, that's crazy, yada, yada, yada. And then I said, Grandpa, should I leave it? And he said, leave it. And I went back there, and oh my God, if I didn't leave it, I would have been like messed up to this day. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, um my responsibility is to, and that makes you feel better, right? It makes you feel better when you think, okay, um you have this spirit team that you need. Another analogy that I heard was that um when three people die, it's because they're on first, second, and third base, right? And they are like helping, like, and you are at bat. That's why these things happen in threes, and you are at bat. So you guys are all playing a game, and these people, the three people that die, um, are on your team. The ones that you love and are very special to you. They're on your team, and so um you're at bat. And so they're helping you to make a home run, right? So this is another analogy heard. I've heard a couple analogies for the reason why it happens in threes, uh, as far as their ability to help you in the spirit. And I know that when I was thinking, or like receiving, like when I was in jail that time, I did 3 months, you guys, for traffic. But anyway, my grandma was in my ear all the time because I was gonna say this thing and I was gonna say that thing, you know, to the CO, or I was gonna, I don't like, you know what I mean. And my grandma was like, "Baby, no," like, you know what I'm saying. And she was so right, like, so it's very it makes you feel 10 times better if you think that they are um watching over you, or if they are communicating you, or they are moving things on your behalf, right? But um we don't know, because I don't want to, like, I feel like I was at this place before, and that's when I started dealing with all that, the Rishas and all that kind of stuff like that. And I think God had to discipline me, and a lot of times, like, and I think that was discipline, everything that I kind of went through with grandma. That's why he allowed it, because I had to be disciplined. um as I travel and I meet people who are 60, 70, 80, 90, and it's clear that they've had no discipline from God. Like, it's clear that they've been able to do things that they wanted to do with no repercussions, right? Um, and I would hate to be that age and be so undisciplined, right? Um, I think the reason why, like, I have such good character, which I'm not ashamed to say that I do, or I'm not prideful to say that I do, is because I have been so disciplined, right? So I think that when grandmom died, before she died, I feel like I was on the cusp of, like, discovering something, right? Spiritually or whatever, or like some type of spiritual initiation or something like that. I was doing quantum jumping, all this kind of stuff. And when she died, after she died, how it was just like terrible, right? It just like the whole world was against me. But this, yeah, the whole world was against me. Um, but God was with me though. Like, people who tried to do something to me or whatever, I was protected. Like, um, and then when things would happen to them right after they would try to do something to me or talk to me a certain way or whatever, I would hear people say, "Oh, that's the girl, that she was arguing with," or "That's the girl that, whatever." And so people would not, like, mess with me because of, like, God protecting me. Um, but I was very, it was a terrible situation, right? It was a terrible time, and everybody was against me, right? And um a lot of times now, it's like I don't want to do things, like, I don't want to, and I hope I, like, got the point across to you guys about, when something happens, like, don't blame yourself if it's not your response, if it's not your fault, if you weren't there, if there was nothing that you really could do at that time, it's not your fault. Your responsibility may be to fix it for yourself, to make yourself feel better. If you've lost a loved one, or a pet or anything, right? If somebody went to jail, like, if anything happened that you feel like, if I was there, I could have handled it. You weren't there. You know what I mean? I was in the Walmart. This girl was telling me how she got this puppy and she didn't get it its shots, and she took it to the dog park and then it got porvo. And she's like, I blame myself, because if I would have, got the shots, I would have, the dog wouldn't have died. I'm like, did you have the money for the shots? And she's like, no. I'm like, how was you gonna get them then? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's not your fault, right? You would have got them if you had the money, right? And it's not your fault that somebody took a dog with parvo to a dog park where they knew other dogs would be, right? That's not your fault. Your responsibility was to try to get the dog treatment when it got sick, which you did, right? And now your responsibility is to get over it, right? Not to be so harsh, right? So if you were abused or something like that, it wasn't your fault. You know what I mean? You just wanted to be your fault because you want to have some sense of control in the situation. You don't want to think to yourself that you were and are, in some respect, so helpless, right? Um, but it's not your fault, right? It's your responsibility to, and I don't want to say get over it, but it's your responsibility to educate yourself and free yourself and do what you have to do that. But it's not your fault, right? So, um, what was I, where was I at? Oh yeah, discipline. So a lot of times, so now I'm on this cusp, and I'm like, man, like I don't want to, like I feel like constricted. This is where, because it's like I was talking to them, as like guides or whatever, right? But then it's like, um you know, man, God, like I don't want to like make that same mistake, because I feel like it happened when grandma died, and I was allowed to be disciplined so harshly because I was like dealing with these Orishas and these fake gods, and I'm telling people, oh yeah, Shane goes the way to go, and he's my dad and all kinds of stuff like that, and it's like I remember thinking a little bit ago about how hurt God was when he heard all that stuff. I got a Shango tattoo before I got a tattoo of my favorite Bible verse. And I remember like crying almost, because I would just remember how hurt God might have been, being that he's been like sold that, like he's been like he's like you worship you're whoring after God you never knew. That's the Bible verse. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's been me that's been with you, right? Like, but I felt like, oh well, I had to grow up this way and these things happen, so and God is like, okay, hello. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's been me that's been with you, and now you're gonna whore out these other gods. So I thought that God was mad, but I'm realizing now that he was disciplining me, because as I the things that I was doing, like, stupid stuff I was doing in areas, like, that I had no idea about, you know what I'm saying? Um, you know, like novice witchcraft and all this kind of stuff like that, with honey jars, just reading stuff and just doing it on the internet, going to the lake, and throwing pennies and honey in there for Oshun, all type of stuff that I had no idea what I was doing, right? So um when I meet people, see people, hear about people who have like demonic infestations, black clouds. When I see people with black clouds in Louisiana behind them, you know what I mean? When I like people who are getting high they're being tormented by spirits, right? People who are having like real these experiences, like, oh, I was sitting on my bed, and this thing just sat next to me. Yeah, no, like I'm not built for that. You know what I mean? Even before, like when I came here, I called myself like casting demons out, and then I had a dream of a real demon, and it was like I was so scared, and in the dream, like God was like, girls, stop that. Like you not built for that, because if a real demon came out, you would just you don't know what you would do. I ain't make you to fight. You know what I'm saying? So um so I think God was disciplining me. When God disciplines you, we call it punishment, but it's not, because God disciplines those that He loves. The reason why, when you discipline somebody, or or even something, you're doing it so that um they won't experience a more what's the word, a more hurtful hurt. Right? So you discipline your child when they touch a hot stove, right? Because you don't want them to get burned, right? The sting, the small sting of your hand slap is going to be nothing for like a burn, right? You discipline your child when they run into a street because you don't want them to get hit, right? The small sting of your belt or the hand, or just that one lick you give them is going to be nothing compared to if they get hit, right? So I think that the things I was dealing in, or trying to deal in, you know what I'm saying? Um, that all that horrible stuff I went through in Trenton, that was discipline. God was disciplining me, because if He didn't, the things that I was like opening myself up for and giving Satan legal right to do, you know what I'm saying? And the vulnerability I was putting on myself. I was watching this thing with this witch, and she was saying the only people that can't be hexed are those that really, follow God's law every single day. And there's a very small amount of people who do that. Well, God knew I was going to be coming to Louisiana, and He knew how. Oh my God! Listen, these people. I mean, like, oh. God knew how was they was going to do. Yeah, no, and I'm just saying, like, they so into it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, man, they so into it. Anybody you meet could be into it. Don't eat nothing from nobody. I mean, God, you can't even eat, and they all want to bring you some food. You just meet somebody here, they got a plate for you. Nigga, I don't, and then they give you a plate, right? Your name on it, and then whoever else they give it to, they name on it. Nigga, I don't need nothing. Why am I gotta have my name on it? Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, no, no, no. I'm telling you, man, they into it. They are into it. But anyway, um it may seem like it affected me for a while, but that's because God wanted me to be in a position, or I wasn't in a position, for it like not to affect me. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, no. um I can confidently say right now today that like yeah, no, I really try to follow God my best, the best I can do. Like I really do my best. You know what I mean? And a huge part of that is because of that discipline. I mean, I was like, I don't know how long I was living in that house with no water, no electricity, right? Um, and the sun, right? Um, Zoned out, and um I was disciplined, you know what I mean? um there was a snowstorm and Michael like bought his heater. Like it's like I don't know if he was like an angel or what, but um I was being disciplined because as bad as it was living in that house, um with no electricity, no water. Imagine how bad it would have been if um there was demons there or spirits there, or you know what I'm saying, or um poltergeist there, things moving and whatever, like you know what I'm saying, like imagine how bad that would have been, because I'm not built for none of that type of you know, I'm not built for none of that, God made me for like a mental reason. He ain't make me for no no I'm a teacher, right? I'm not no person that cast out demons or do no type of warfare with you, or I'm not the one, right? So and he know that. So he disciplined me to let me know that, like, yo, like, if this is whatever. And so when you feel like you're being disciplined, when you feel like you're being punished, but it's really God's discipline, know that whatever the discipline is, if he allowed you to do that thing, then the actual punishment, or not punishment, the consequence of him allowing you to do that thing would be 10 times, 100 times worse than the discipline that he is putting you through. So when you know that you're doing the best that you can do, like even in Trenton at that time, I was really doing the best that I could do. I was really doing the best that I knew how to do. If I knew what I was doing, because they say don't put no other gods before him. Okay, well, I'm not putting them before you, Jehovah, but you know, um, I just felt special because they were calling me and all that kind of stuff like that. But yeah, uh, when you are punished, man, count it all joy. Like I'm saying, be happy about it, because that means God loves you enough to punish you. Like even now, you like it's some some kids or whatever, you see them doing something, you gonna correct them, right? You going, but it's other kids that's like they, or other people, rather, even people who are whatever. Man, you just like, okay, you got it. They say something, I don't even argue. Listen, you got it, sweetie. I know it's about to happen, but go ahead, you got it. I'm not gonna argue with you, right? So when it feels like punishment, when you feel like God, and when I say that, like when you do something wrong, and it's like, dang, I can't do nothing. Soon as you do something, you get the consequence. A bad thing happened to you, right? And it's very obvious, like what the reason is. Like it just, you know what I mean? Because people say like, oh, as soon as somebody do something to you, they get a consequence. Listen, as soon as I do something to anybody, or as soon as I do something that is wrong, that I know is wrong, I get a consequence. Even if I don't know it's wrong and it's wrong, I get a consequence. Right then, like I get a consequence, because God disciplines those that he loves. You know what I'm saying? So I did want to say that, because there are people who are 60, 70, 80, 90, still nigga. I mean, still so undisciplined. It's like because they've been getting away with it, spiritually, because they haven't really met, like, this is the first time that they ever saw, like, and let me not get too deep into that. But yeah, it's a lot of people who do a lot of foolish stuff and they don't get no consequence. And this is why they think that, or they don't get no discipline from God. You know what I'm saying? I.e., in the form of a consequence. So this is why they think it's cool to do, right? And then it's like they get to a point, or they get to a person where either God, they get to a point and they get to a person. It's not trying to. Okay. I guess I'm supposed to end this one. Bye.